Welcome back to this month aircraft guide system, and we this month are going to be working on the air system. So it's going to be this panel here, here, and here is what I'm going to be going over or having set up for you for this month to explore. Now, if you are a free member, this video you will be able to go over and I'll explain a little bit more of the system here. And if you are a paying member, you will be able to go over all these lights, buttons, and switches and find out about them. Now, this panel, the next panel was the air system, like I said, that was picked by Kuba Faulkner, who was our initial member of the first 50 founding members. And if you're part of that, the first 50 founding members, you get a discount. So instead of paying $5, you pay $4. It's actually $20 or 20% off per month. So that 20% off really starts to add up. So shout out to Kuba for choosing the air system. And now let's go into it. So this is the image for the Boeing 737 air system panel. And I'm going over the air system. And then what we want to do is show more. When we show more, we click here to go the air system on the overhead panel, or you can go and get the whole overhead panel, but you can look at all the lights, buttons, and switches, but haven't gotten them all of everything hooked up yet. So if we click on the air system panel hyperlink here, we go to the bleed air and pressurization panel, which is right here. So when we do that and we click on, you can see these things are interactive. When you click on dual bleed air, it takes you to the dual bleed air light, and you can see that what that indicates is that a bleed air valve is open and possible back pressure to APU is possible. That's due to having another pack running on the engine, and that the pressure from the engine from the fifth stage or ninth stage air is a lot more powerful than the APU, and it's pushing back into the APU and ruining the APU, so or could be ruining it. So that's what's happening, and we see up here you have general, and that takes you to the dual bleed air light, and then it goes into deeper what that all means. And also it tells you what to do, that the thrust must be limited to idle with the dual bleed light illuminated so you don't ruin the APU. Now the other thing we have here is the schematic, and with this schematic you can click on it and it will take you to the full schematic of the aircraft. Now you see we have from the engines to the actually the cowl anti-icing here goes into the air that goes into the system, that goes into the manifold, and then goes up into the packs, the mixed manifold, and then from the mixed manifold up into the aircraft. Now I don't actually have the conditioned air system up just yet. I just have it up here to the pack, like basically right up to here is what I have with what I'm showing you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split screen so I can show you how the systems work. And also if we go down here, I actually have the panel right here that we will be going over, and how all the switches and lights are hooked up. So that will be with all of with the schematics here. So let me split screen this and we'll get right back to you. So here you see we have the panel next to the schematic. I'm going to start down at the bottom here, show you some valves here, how this works. But here we have the engine, And the engine, and you can see the starter valve here, yes, it uses air. We use air from the APU. Once that opens up, this line here is pressurized. So we see it comes over here to the starter. And this is the air that turns the starter, that turns the engine, that gets it going. So that's how the air is used to start the engine. Now the APU, will go into that later. That's started electronically, so we can start that at the gate. Or there is another source in here that we have an air cart that we can hook up to. Now once the engine is going, as you see, we have 5th stage and 9th stage air. This is what runs the bleed air and pressurization panel. This is the air that we get it from, and this is from the turbine section. So we have the compressor section up here in the engine here. That's where the air fuel mixture is ignited, and then it goes through the turbine. And as the turbine spins, we have air taken off of the compressed air that's within here. Now that compressed air turns the turbine, which turns the compressor up here. We'll have information on how a jet engine works. I'll have links to that coming up soon. But as you can see here, this air is coming in, and as the air comes in, pressure is building up. So the 5th stage air is not as great as the 9th stage air, and that's going to mean a difference. So the 5th stage air comes in through this check valve. The bleed air valve here opens it up, and as you can see, it goes into this bleed air duct. Now that bleed air duct comes in, and we have to the water tank. It pressurizes the water system, so you can have the water on the aircraft, like the tap water or the water that's very important to make the coffee. And then also there's pressure to go to the hydraulic reserve system. Now this is a backup hydraulic system, so it comes in there, then it comes out, it goes to the pack valve here, and then this is the, like we said, the left engine. Now this is the right engine, and remember I was telling you about the external air connection. This is where the air cart hooks up, and that pressurization then can come over and do the starter valve. But also that air can go over from the left engine to start the right engine. So think of this as flipped over. So if the right engine was running, so all of this would be all of the 5th stage air and 9th stage air would be coming over to run the start valve on the engine that wasn't operating to get it started. And we can see up here that that engine bleed air valve, well, that is connected to this switch here. And this valve then, whether it's open or not, the bleed trip off, it is right here. And then it also has another pressure system here. So it can tell on the panel where the lights are, from the lights where it's going. And the duct pressure transmitter, that is right here in the schematics. So that is the basics with the engine. We're going to go a little bit more in depth, and this is why I love this schematic. So you see there was the bleed, the bleed trip off as we come from the bottom, and as you see, this right here coincides with the engine. So we have right down here, we see the APU bleed valve like we had before in the diagram coming up and going to the starter valve right here and connecting to the isolation valve here that goes to the other side for the starter valve over here. Also, we can see the pre-cooled air and with the isolation valve, so the air can move from side to side. And now this we have the fifth stage up here going into the pressurization system. And also we have the ninth stage down here. And then there's an interesting valve here. This is the cowl anti-ice system. So the bleed air comes in and it warms the cowl on the front. That's to de-ice the engine so we don't get a lot of ice form on the front of the engine, and that ice breaks into the engine, and that ice, because it's solid, can hurt those compressor blades and the turbine blades, basically ruin the engine. So that is all the information we have. The cowl anti-ice light, that light is a disagree light. It's like, okay, saying, well, you asked for the cowl anti-ice, you're not getting any pressure in it. All right, so then we go a little bit up further past the starter. We get to the wing anti-ice system, and this is for the slats. You see 2, 3, 4 slats here on the side, 5, 6, 7. So it's the mid flaps that you're talking about. You don't do one, which is out on the wing, but you do all the mid or the inside. And that heats up the leading edge of the wing, so there's no ice forming on that, and that's how the bleed air is taken to heat up the leading edge from that bleed air, because this air coming from the engine, remember, it's coming in fifth stage, it's very hot, and in ninth stage, it's very, very hot. Now, of course, there's more pressure here than here. There's a lot of pressure here. There's an awful lot of pressure here. So that air goes up to there. Then we start going in. So we can see that the bleed air right here, that's this switch in here, that's getting the air. This APU bleeds valve, that's right here. Then we go up through the air cycle machine, but first we have the indication of pressure, and that is right here. This is telling you how much pressure you need to start or operate the pneumatic system or the bleed air system. And it's usually around 30 psi is what you want to see on your pressure. If you have less than that, you can start an engine, but it's very difficult, and the engine may heat up, and then you may have to shut it down because the EGT gets too high, because it's not the fire isn't basically have enough pressure to push the air through, and it heats up too much. So that's this pressure right here. And then we have the pack valve, which you can see right here is this pack valve, and then this pack valve is over on the right pack here, and it's off, auto, and high. Auto is whichever pressure you need, either fifth or sixth, whatever it needs to keep the system going. And then you see high. High is the ninth stage, because you need more pressure. So that's going to pull the pressure from the ninth and not mix the ninth with the fifth. And there are certain conditions that you would use that for, and we'll go into that later. And then in the middle here, you see the isolation valve. That comes right down here with the isolation valve. Now, from the pack system, that comes, that is up here with the air cycle machine. We're going to get that into that next time. So that comes up, and then finally at the very top, we skip the air cycle machine. We go to the recirc fan, and that is what the recirc fan does is it reuses air, because you got to remember this air comes in, it has to go through the air cycle machine. There's a lot of energy spent here, that what they can do is just use the air that's already in the airplane, go back into the air mix manifold, and then connect it with the other temperature air here in the mix manifold to get the temperatures that you want. So it may be 80 coming in, it'll be 85 going out, but 85 is a lot that air that's being recycled is a lot easier to get down 5 degrees than say the other air that's coming in through here. So that's why we are using that recirc air from the fans here. So that is the whole schematic related to the panel. I'll get deeper into the temperature and pressure next time when I get that system all up and ready. The questions. So if you are going for your oral on the airplane, here are the questions with the actual dual bleed air light. So it's a really good function. We'll go back here. The questions, and if we keep going back, go down to the questions, we have the questions for the whole air system. I put them all on there. So you can go down the panel and get the questions on the duct pressure. Where does the indicator read the pressure? You can click on it. It says the duct pressure indicator reads the pressure from the left and right bleed air ducts. So if we go back here and then we go to the schematics, you can see that right there. That's where it is. So you have all the information you need, not only to to get the oral questions right, but you have all the information to know where you got it. Now there is one more thing I wanted to go over here, and that is the pressurization. This is a little different. So we go to the pressure gauge now, and we go to the schematic. You see here we have the bleed air system for the schematic system, or for the schematics for the bleed air system. This is actually the pressurization. So it is going to tell you uh, how all of those switches work. So let's see if I can go back. So we had it for that one. Now let's see about this. You see we have that there. We can go to the schematics and then we can find it in here, and going further back we have the pressurization. So you have schematics, you have the manual valve right here, and it shows you how that this is the outflow in the back of the airplane, how everything works. We're hoping that you enjoyed this, and if you do, please think about becoming a First 50 member. And if you do that now, there's a few slots still left open, and if you join that, you get 20% off of the monthly fees, and that can add up to a lot of money. And this will help. Hopefully, this will help you when you have to go through your orals and trying to understand the system and try to explain the system to your FAA examiner on how the airplane works. All right, so that's all for this week. Hopefully, you'll join us. Tell your friends about us, but only tell the friends that are interested in this. We are it's a small group, but we are dedicated and passionate about learning about systems in aircraft, especially the Boeing system, and in this group, especially the Boeing 737. So please tell your friends who would appreciate this. And remember, we're building pilots one switch at a time. And I thank you.